What's up, everybody? David Barnett here of the Tour Junkies. Pat Perry with me. This is TJ After Dark, presented by DraftKings. It is well after dark. We've got a unnamed alcoholic adult beverage in our
I've got
cups.
some rosé tonight in a little like stemless glass. It's plastic. It's good.
Yikes!
Very high key.
I'm rocking this hideous Bryson DeChambeau hat.
That's the worst hat. Are you going to wear that hat the whole time? Do I have to look at that hat the entire time that we are on
I think
the
I
show?
might. I think I might
Nice.
just for the show. I do hate it, though. I may take it off here in just a second. I feel like I can do pre-calculus for the first time in my life.
How's it look the other way? How's it look the other way? Okay, so you have some advertisement, no free ads, but you
yeah,
got
like I'm
right there.
Yeah, I feel like I'm Zach Morris in the college years, trying to be really cool.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Zach Morris is a great comparison.
You know, oh, hey, Kelly, come over here. You know what I mean? Oh, hey, you too, Jesse.
And bring
come over here. I got some caffeine. I got some caffeine pills for you.
And bring that big cell phone, that big bag of cell phone you got.
Yeah, so I can call my dad. You know what I mean? Jeez. Some big time Saved by the Bell references there. If you guys and girls are probably too young to get that, but hey, we're not here to talk about Saved by the Bell, believe it or not. We're here to talk about the PGA Tour and the Workday Charity Open, the inaugural and probably the last Workday Charity Open, being held from Muirfield Village. We got a pretty good field this week, Pat. It's better than last week for sure. Pretty stacked, a lot of good names here in the field. But we need to learn a little bit about Muirfield Village, which is going to host not only this tournament, but also next week's tournament. But there will be some slight differences you can tell us about. Tell us what's important to look at, and then we're going to get into a few things we disagreed on the podcast we just recorded, as well as a bunch of DK Sportsbook picks that we're doing pretty well on right now. We got some outright bets. I have a top 10 bet for you. I got some matchups for you. Matchups can't be any worse than they were last week, so we're going to improve there, I'm pretty sure. Let's get to it.
Yeah, so this week, we're at Muirfield Village. This is a fantastic golf course. Jack's Place, as they call it. We're going to be here 2 weeks in a row, and it's going to play, I think, pretty different both weeks. So the underlying theme is they're going to make it set up a little bit easier this week. The rough isn't all that high. They're going to let it grow up for next week. The greens they're going to have running a little bit slower at around 11 on the stimp meter. These are bent grass greens for the most part. They're very undulating. They're usually playing very quick, but this week they're going to have them playing a little bit slower, and I think they're going to be a little bit softer. So you're going to see a little more scoring this week than I think you're going to see next week. As far as the course itself, it's just a classic design tree-lined golf course. The fairways are relatively wide. Like I said, the rough isn't that thick this week. I think it will be next week. But it's a great course. It is a par 72 playing just over 7,400 yards. So again, not a huge, like this has really been the theme we've seen since the startup. I mean, is it like every course has not been like extremely long, like a lot of players that can play well on these courses. And I don't know if that's by design or not, but a lot of guys can play well here relative to whether or not you're like Bryson DeChambeau bombing all over the place, or you're Kevin Streelman hitting fairways and greens and whatever else. So it's a great course. 156 players this week. Top 65 and ties will make the cut, as opposed to next week where it's a invitational and we only have 120 players. And you know what? We have seen like 6 of 6 lineups has been next to impossible the last few weeks. I mean, like less than 5% of GPPs and cash have gotten 5% through, less, or gotten 6 of 6 through. So that is like, it's incredible to me. I mean, it's just like, it's been crazy. Yeah. But I think this week we'll see a little bit more 6 of 6 lineups. I don't think it's going to be like we've seen in the last few weeks. Based off the pricing and things like that, I think we're going to see a few more 6 of 6 lineups. So strategy might change a little bit, whereas we like studs and duds have kind of been like the play the last few weeks. I think a little more balance might end up being the way to go. This week at Muirfield Village. We'll see, but that's just my opinion. DB, any thoughts on the course that you have? Did I miss anything? Because that always happens, and it's late, and I'm into the rosé. So,
Hey, I mean, I think you did a good job there, bud. I do think this is going to be a birdie fest, which brings just about anybody into the mix. Any of these guys can really go low. I think we're going to see another 18 to 20 under be the winning score this week. I think as opposed to your average golf course on the PGA Tour, I think driving accuracy is a little more important here. And I think scrambling and strokes gained around the green, being able to get up and down when you miss these very heavily undulated green surfaces, I think that's important. More so important than in your average PGA Tour week. So I'm looking at that. But yeah, I do think this is going to play a little easier than what we typically see Muirfield play. But Muirfield has definitely presented us with a lot of different winners, a lot of different types of winners. Definitely some shorter, more accurate players. And then you've got other, little bit longer players. Your Patrick Cantlays have played well. Bryson's played well. So it can definitely suit a longer hitter as long as they're hitting it accurate. But it's going to be a fun event. The field is stacked, but I definitely don't think you can count out your long shots. I don't think you can do that this week. I think it's going to bring anybody into the field. So let's get it going with a little disagreements right up at the top. I want to talk about some disagreement at the top, Pat, because we disagreed on whether or not to play Mr. Brooks Koepka this week. Now, I'm not a fan of Brooks's iron play of late. I feel like the iron play has been very hit or miss. He did finish 7th at the RBC Heritage. He had a press conference, talked about how he was ready to win. He was ready to take this thing seriously. He told his team, his bubble team, that it was time to, get it going and turn it on. And I like all that. But he's just been a little too inconsistent for me. And on a course like this where there's so much undulation, you have to make sure you're on the proper tier of these greens. I would rather see Brooks hit his irons just a little bit better, man.
Well, I think that
also, I'm going to go get rid of this hat because I can't stand to look at myself.
Yeah, thank God. I think there's good reason to be worried a little bit with Brooks and his irons. But look, this is Brooks Koepka. And this is a guy that we've seen just dominate majors and whatever else in great fields for the last few years. And he's putted extremely well the last few weeks. He gained 4.7 strokes on the field at the Charles Schwab. He gained almost 4 strokes at strokes gained putting at the Heritage. He's been tremendous off the tee. So, yes, his iron play has been a little bit suspect, but everything else has been fine. Everything else has been fine. And we're getting him at lower ownership than you would typically get a guy like Brooks Koepka. I mean, this is one of the premier players in the world, and we're getting him at, let's see. We're around 10% for the Heritage. We're around 11% for the Charles Schwab. This week, I think you're still going to get the same percentage. Now, if he's a little bit higher projected, maybe later in the week, like 15, 16, 17, 18, I don't know, I may come off of Brooks a little bit. But if I'm getting him at 10% where he's been the last few weeks, sign me up. I feel like Brooks at 10-4 is a very good play. And you know what? You're getting him at a little bit of discount to these top guys here. I mean, between Justin Thomas and John Rahm and Cantlay, I love Cantlay, by the way, but I like him at 10-4, so I am all about some Brooks Koepka this week. But I have a little bit of disagreement with you in this over 9K range, and that comes in the form of actually, where does it come in the form of? Patrick Cantlay.
You just said you liked Patrick Cantlay. You literally just said it.
I like Cantlay, but
You're talking about John Rahm.
John Rahm. That's who I was meant. John Rahm's who
freaking A. We are a disaster. God,
I had too much to drink tonight. Hey, John Rahm is who the one I meant to talk about. You were all about John Rahm on the show, and I don't understand it. Like, you got to sell me on John Rahm because he hasn't done anything since we've come back. Nothing. like finish no higher than like 35th or 36th. And he's always and the price doesn't drop at all for him. So I need to figure out why I need to play Jon Rahm this week at 10-9 in the second highest price guy.
Well, let's see. Since Eastlake, since the Tour Championship last year, your boy Brooks Koepka at the RBC Heritage a couple weeks ago racked up his second top 10 since the Tour Championship.
We're talking about Jon Rahm.
You know how many Jon Rahm
Brooks Koepka.
Do you know how many Jon Rahm has had since then? Let's see. 1, 2,
Oh, well,
3,
he's done
4,
a lot. Yeah,
5.
like European Tour.
5. No.
European Tour, probably.
No, 5 on the PGA Tour. I'm not even looking at the European Tour. 5 top 10s in that same time span.
What about recently, though, like the last few weeks?
So recently, he's definitely had to shake off a little bit of rust. But what I think we saw is kind of an aberration at the Travelers, where he lost almost 4 shots, over 4 strokes on approach, which he hasn't done since February of 2019. And before that, he hadn't done again since August of 2017. I don't think that's going to happen again. I think Rahm's going to shake the rust off. Historically, he's a very solid tee to green player, very solid iron player. It's all about will the putts drop for Mr. Jon Rahm. Now, his worst putting surface is Bermuda, which he's not going to see at all this week. He's going to see bent with a little bit of POA, and he putts very well. He's positive in strokes gained on both of those surfaces historically. I think the ceiling for Brooks and Jon Rahm, we know, is always going to be winning. I mean, those guys are winners. So the ceiling is the same. But I just think in terms of like long-term, what we've seen, consistency, Rahm's floor is higher than Brooks right now. And I don't know that they're going to be that much different. There's going to be that much difference in where their ownership falls in terms of tournament plays on DraftKings. I don't think it's going to be that much different.
There's been a huge difference lately.
There has been, but I don't think there will be this time because Brooks is coming off that T7 and everybody's now ready to jump in on Brooks, and he's $500 cheaper. I would be shocked if there's like a 2 to 3% difference, more than a 2 to 3%.
There could be, but I feel like Brooks is just always underappreciated as a golfer. He's been that way in his entire career. It's been that way. So
I mean, we were all slobbering all over him after he started winning majors left and right, but he definitely has gone through a slump in the last eight months or so. And when I say slump, I mean a Brooks Koepka slump. I just mentioned the top 10s. It's definitely a real thing.
If we're gonna bet between you and I would take Koepka over Rahm any day this week.
Well, we do have a little side bet already going, so I'm not going to add to it. And you have to listen to the podcast to figure out who the side bet is between. But whoever's going to lose the side bet next week has to drink a big shot of ranch water to start the podcast.
Which will be interesting. And, okay, I don't have any other players in this. So, like, you can throw somebody.
Let's go to some outrights. Let's look at some betting. Let's look at the DK Sportsbook. I've got some top 10. I've got one top 10, some matchups and outright. I'll start with the matchups. I have 3 matchups here, all at plus. I'm going to take the underdogs in all 3 of these matchups, which I tend to do. I tend to be kind of an underdog, kind of gambler. That's what I like to do. Rose, we just talked about it. I'm taking Justin Rose at plus 110 over Brooks. Rose, former winner here, in very solid form since the return. He did miss 1 cut, but he played really well in the other 2 events he's been in. Tremendous ball striker. Now he's gotten rid of those horrible irons that he had all year last year. And I like the plus 110 number over Brooks. I think that's an attractive number there. Then I'm going to take Victor Hovland at plus 100 over Ricky Fowler. I think this one I feel pretty strong about. We have not seen the consistency from Fowler. We have yet to see that. There's a ton of volatility with his driving, with his irons right now. And there is 0 volatility with Mr. Victor Hovland's driving and iron right now. That kid is hitting so many greens in regulation, and he just doesn't give himself a whole lot of opportunities to really F it up. You know what I mean? Like he's just, his chipping has improved. We talked before quarantine. He said, I suck at chipping. during quarantine, he says, hey, somebody asked him, what have you been working on? He say, well, I've been going to this chipping guru, and I've been trying to figure out how to chip. Well, guess what he's done in 2 out of the last 4 events on the PGA Tour? He's actually gained strokes chipping and around the green, which he's never done. So he's clearly improved that part of his game. I love that here. I like him at plus 100 over Ricky. And then the one that I feel actually the best about is Joel Damon at plus 100 over Harold Varner III. I like Harold Varner III, but I like the upside of Joel here. And he took a week's rest. He didn't play last week. HV3's been playing a lot of golf and can't seem to quite put 4 rounds together. And I think our boy Joel can, and this is a great event for him, great tournament for him, great course for him. So I'll go Joel Damon on the matchups.
I'll throw a few matchups in here.
Yeah.
I think that I'm actually I'm big on Matt Kuchar at plus 100 over Colin Morikawa. I mean, look, Colin Morikawa is still gaining a lot of the momentum off of what he did. He's done all year, and not missing the cut and whatever else. And we've seen Kuchar take a little bit of a break. But if you're going to get a plus, that plus symbol there for Kuchar over Morikawa, I think you can play that. And on a course like this, where Kuchar has had extreme success, he's won here before. I like Kuchar at plus 100, so I'm a big fan of that play. I also like Corey Connors at plus 110 over Bubba Watson. I think that's almost like free money. Like, I think Bubba could spray it all over this course.
Yeah, he hasn't looked good.
And Corey Connors has been, regardless of whether or not he's making cuts or whatever, he is a solid ball striker. This is a great course for him. So I like Corey Connors at plus 110 over Bubba Watson. So there you go.
Yeah, Bubba's been struggling for sure. He doesn't look good. All right, before we get to the outrights, I will throw a little sprinkle, top 10 sprinkle.
Okay.
Huge, long number for a top 10 in this field. This is like you throw just a little sprinkle on Chase Koepka at 100-1. Brooks's brother at 100-1 for a top 10. Now, Chase Koepka Monday qualified a couple weeks ago, meaning he shot like a 62 or so. He shot some stupid number to Monday qualify.
Which you have to do in the qualifiers now, like everybody does. It's ridiculous.
So he shot a stupid low number to get into that event, then ended up having to withdraw because there was a COVID scare in the whole Brooks Koepka bubble. Chase got out as a result. It was at the Travelers. Chase withdrew as a result. He gets a spot here into the Workday Open. He is a talented player. Brooks has talked about, and now who knows how much of this is big brother hyperbole, but he's like, hey, listen, my brother's beat me. My brother can beat me at any given day. Like, do I tend to beat him more? Do I have more experience winning and in tournament golf? Yes, but like my brother's beat me before. And he beats me every year. Like, if you just catch that lightning in a bottle on a guy for a top 10 at 100-1, who's obviously been playing pretty well to having Monday qualified, but now, he gets a chance at the Workday Open. I think it's an interesting number. You want to move on to some outrights? What are your outright?
Yeah.
Your outright boys. Let's hammer through
All right,
those.
so I'm going to go with the shortest guy that I like, and that's Brooks Koepka at 17-1. I think you can throw some money on him. I like that.
A lot of Koepka being thrown around.
Yep. I also like Justin Rose. Now, I didn't mention him on the podcast as one of my DK picks, DraftKings picks for fantasy, but I like him at 26-1. I think that is a very good number for Justin Rose, so I will play him as well. Also, I am a big fan of – I can't read my writing here, but I think it's Adam Hadwin at 50-1. I like him there. I like Cam Champ at 75-1. I know you were in disagreement with me on him on the podcast, but I like some Cam Champ at 75-1. I like Maverick McNealy at 130-1. I think that's a good play as well. And here's another sneaky play. This is a guy that was popular when we started back for the Charles Schwab that everybody wanted to talk about. And I think he could be a sneaky good play, even though we haven't seen great form from him. I like him on this course, and that is Shane Lowry at 100-1.
Oof.
I think he could be a good play this week. He's a little bit of a flyer. There's the stats and everything else out there, but you know what? Before he won the Open Championship, it didn't matter. He didn't check all the boxes.
No,
But
yeah, he normally doesn't.
I like some Shane Lowry at 100-1 this week. So there you go.
100-1 is a pretty big number for a major champion. I mean, he's getting that number because his form is bad, as you said. But that's an interesting bet. I'm going to start off. I agree with you on Hadwin at 50-1. I got him. I like Matthew Fitzpatrick at 55-1. This golf course. If you like Adam Hadwin, I don't know why you don't like Matthew Fitzpatrick. Other than Hadwin's been playing a little more, the form's been a little more consistent. But in terms of the type of player that they are, both are the same. They're the same player. One's just European and tiny, and one's Canadian and tiny. I like Billy Ho, who is at 70-1, very accurate player, tee to green, extremely accurate. Winner on tour. I like Billy Ho at 70. I love Joel Damon at 100-1. I think that's an incredible number for Joel. Way too long. I mean, I personally, I think Joel should be in the 55 to 65-1 number. I think that's where he's at. I think given his recent form, given his skill set, given how close he's been, I mean, he has knocked on the door. Why are his odds so much longer than Billy Horschel? I don't understand that one. Totally agree with you on Maverick McNealy. I wrote him down as well. And then if I got to throw in a big old fat flyer in there, I'll throw in Sepp Straka at 175-1. Sepp's been playing pretty well since the restart. Listen, if William McGirt can win here, if David Lingworth can win here, and if you're sitting there watching going, who? Exactly. Duffner. There are people, anybody can get hot this week and win here. We've said that every week because a lot of these scoring fests tend to be that way. But for the most part, it is true, even though we've seen some shorter favorites kind of, do well here with Webb and Bryson and whatnot. But a young, hot player who's playing really well right now, who's got a lot of confidence like Sepp Straka, could come up and win this thing, and you'd be like, oh, my God, who is this guy? So there you go. That is the Workday Charity Open, Patrick. We will be right back here next week talking about the exact same golf course, but probably a little firmer, probably a little faster. Greens for sure faster. Rough supposedly will be a little more penal. Invitational field with only 120 players, as you mentioned. Should be a pretty stacked week, but it'll be fun. We'll be right back at it. May your screens be green. Hey, maybe try and get 6 of 6 through the cut this week in DFS. That'd be refreshing for everyone. For literally 96% of people who play, 6 of 6 would be refreshing.
Yes, I would love it.
May your screens be green. Thanks for watching TJ After Dark. Give it a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button here on DraftKings if you don't mind. And leave us a comment. Tell us what you think about our picks. Are you in agreement with me on Rahm? Are you in agreement with Pat on Brooks? Tell us what you think. See ya.